Hello and welcome to another session. Solving tactics on chesstempo.com with the advocates. This set is 1600 to 1700 mixed. Mixed means we get both tactics that win material and tactics that save material that we have won, or more accurately, has been given to us. 1600 to 1700, that means, you guessed it, 1600 tactics to, wow, you can move that. Cool. I can move it around. I didn't know that. Find something new every day. But that means you can't highlight. Huh. Anyways, 1600 to 1700, that's just a little 100 point bracket to focus on these tactics here. That way, if you're at this level, perfect. If you're a little bit below this level, you can sort of help yourself get up there. And if you're a little bit above this level, you can sort of do a little refresher. But disclaimer, if you are way above this level, this is probably not going to help you. If you are way below 1600, this is probably not going to help you. But you can go to my YouTube channel, find YouTube videos all the way down to 1200 or all the way up to 2000, and maybe those will be better for you. Let's go ahead and get started. So this is where you pause. Pause the video. Don't listen to me talk, ramble, then continue. So rook takes, knight takes, pawn takes, that's equality. Queen takes, check, pawn takes, that's, I don't even win the knight. Queen a6, hitting the rook on f1. And how does the queen cover the rook? There's no check, so queen a6, and this queen needs to go somewhere to cover the rook, but she can't. She can't do it. So queen a6, queen takes c8, queen takes c8. I'm a queen against a knight, queen against a rook and a knight. And that should be enough. There's no sneakiness and there's no passed pawn. So I'm just gonna either pick up the rook, pick up the knight, or pick up the a pawn. And if I do any of those three things, I will win. More swindling chances, I guess, with the queen and the knight on the board. Actually, no, this is just a better material balance, I suppose, down the exchange. Mistakes. Oh, now you unpause the video. Not that you would know that. If you had paused it. Rook takes c7, most common mistake. Rook takes c7, not a good move, because now you know that this isn't the move because it creates equality. So you know that this isn't the move. It's that simple. Threatening to win the knights and give checkmate. No, it's not checkmate. So rook takes, knight f, rook check, king, queen h8 check, king here. So no, not mate. So rook takes g2, rook takes e, knight f8. So now we are at equality, but he needs to cover rook h2 check, king g1, queen g2 mate. How's he going to do that? I could also play like knight f6, covering, but that doesn't threaten anything. Well, yeah, knight f6 would threaten rook takes g2. If the queen comes back to cover, I can take the knight on c3. So knight df6 threatening rook takes g2. And now he needs to cover the knight on c3 as well as the bishop on g2. How's he going to do that? Now if g5, rook takes g2, and he doesn't have time to take because I have rook check, king g1, queen check is mate. So g5 is not a good defense. Wait, he has queen takes f6. Yeah, if knight f6, queen takes f6. So knight f6 doesn't work. That was stupid of me. I think I should just take rook takes g2, rook takes knight here, and now I'm threatening check, checkmate. There are a couple of ways to cover that. He can play rook takes, king takes, queen check, king e7, pawn check, king d7, and there are no more checks, and he needs to cover mate. So I'm not getting mated. If rook takes e8, I'm not getting mated. And he still needs to cover this checkmate here of his own. So I'm going to be threatening mate on f2 and g2. Rook takes check, king here, or knight here. Now he needs to cover mate on, he needs to cover the h2 square, but that's not possible. He can't cover the h2 square, so he can't stop h2 check, which means he can't stop the double threat of queen f2 and queen g2 mates. And he can't get his queen to f3 to cover those two squares. So takes, knight f8, rook, back. Now rook takes, knight takes, queen takes. No. Take the knight. If you take the queen, he recaptures with the knight. So the point is here, 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 and there's no sacrifice. He very quickly runs out of checks. And now the problem is that I'm threatening rook check, king g1, and queen f2 and queen g2 checkmate. And if the queen could get to f3, she could cover both of those threats, but she can't. The queen can't get back to f3. So there's no way the queen gets to this problem. The reason why it works is there's no way for the queen to get to f3 or g1 to cover the g2 and f2 squares. And that's after I realized that I didn't actually need to calculate it. I could just play it. Tall with the black pieces. Mikhail Tal. All right, so bishop f4, and he would need to give up the queen. Or no. No. He's threatening mate, so there's no quiet move. If pawn check, queen takes, what I'd like to do is I'd like to distract the queen. Yeah, I'd like to distract the queen to give queen e1 mate. And I think I can do that with bishop e5. Bishop e5, queen check, king here. Ooh, queen check perpetual. Bishop e5, queen c8, check. That's no good. Bishop e5, queen c8, check, king h7. Queen f5. If g6, he'll have d7. Damn. What about, okay, let's start with say okay, wait. What about queen f1 check, king d7, bishop check? That's mate. Queen f1 check. The king must go to d2 and then bishop f4 is mate. There we go. I think there was a big flaw in my calculation there is that I dismissed queen f1 check before fully calculating it. So I saw the mate on queen e1 and on e1, and so I tried to make that work instead of fully examining the f1 check, which wasted a lot of time. Let's not do that anymore. Let's fully consider the checks in the position before. So for example, here in this position, there are no checks, really. There is this nasty pin, though. Bishop b8. And the knight can't cover the bishop on h2. He can't... What he can do is he can take on h3. But I think I might be winning that endgame by dominating the knight. Bishop, knight takes h3, bishop takes h2. And now I'm up a piece, but I don't know if I can win the endgame. Maybe it's just better to take... Well, no, if I take here... If I take here, he definitely takes here. And then that's definitely a draw. Against the knight, I have chances to dominate the knight. But against a bishop, I don't. And the bishop will always be able to cover the squares, the mating squares. Can she? Is two bishops? I don't know the practical endgame there well enough to know if two bishops against a bishop is a win or not. Okay, now you take with the king. Okay, so this, yeah, bishop versus bishop draws, and bishop and bishop versus knight is a win. And we know that just from endgame table bases, apparently. Thank you, Simuroya. User Simuroya. Mistakes made, bishop takes... Yes, so this is the thing. You have to make a decision between bishop takes f2 and the pin. And the way you do that, you have to decide which one you have better winning chances. But if you played bishop takes f2, I don't think that's so punishable. Alright, so can I just go queen? And be a piece up? I'll probably have to give that piece up for the a6 pawn. So e7. Oh, wait, e7. Wait, but I'll just take with the knight. I'm not going to take with the... Oh, e7 and... Alright, so I should just take here now. And then you can't play the tactic. Knight takes, rook takes... Yeah. So if you play e7, then rook takes e7 is the problem. But I can just take on b7 now. And, wait, what? Oh, shit. Rook b1. Just he played a defensive move and I played the sort of automatic response. On that last problem, I should have played rook b1 check in order to promote, because if you just play b7, the rook can go to, or if you just play d7, the rook can go to d8, stopping the pawn, and that's an equal endgame. I just sort of played the automatic move without thinking. I was too busy talking, listening to the sound of my own voice. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I kind of want my queen and rook to trade places here. I want my rook on the back rank. So queen check, king d8. Rook check, king e6. Queen check, knight e7. Queen takes a7 check. If queen c8, rook b7. So queen takes check, and then my rook can come to e1. So queen check if king c8. If king c8, I guess there's queen or bishop c5, trying to deflect the queen from the b8 square. Ah. Queen takes a7, king e6, or king e8, rook check. King goes to d8, bishop check, king, and then rook check would be mate. Or rather, it would force him to give up the queen. Then queen a8 check, king takes, and I would win the queen for free. So queen check. If the king goes this way, rook check would win. Or what about queen check, king e8, rook check, bishop f6, or bishop e7, queen check, king e, bishop e7, bishop c5, queen f6, bishop takes, knight takes, and there's plenty to defend. So how to get this done? I'd like to get at the d5 pawn to sort of think about picking up here, but I don't see how to do it. Mm, So rook b7 check and queen e. Okay. What about a different? Yeah, what about queen c8 check instead of queen e8 check? That way he can't block. There are just too many. Yeah, if you give queen e8 check, there are too many pieces blocking. But if you give queen c8, the only piece that can block is the queen, but the rook's on b7. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So rook b7, king e8, and if queen c8 check would force him to give up the queen. He has no squares. Yes. Yeah. Uh. Wait. King c6. Queen c8 check. Queen. Yeah. Okay. And if king c6, it's the same thing. Cool. Cool. That one was really difficult. That was a difficult problem for me. I was too, I was too caught up on, I was caught up on Queen E8 check for a long time, and I didn't see any other check in the position. I didn't see Queen C8 until the end, but then once you see Queen C8, it all just sort of flows from there. The most common mistake in this position is to play Queen E8 check, but after people are trying to pick up the knight on G6, but I suppose it doesn't save a piece, because then you would pick up on... No, yeah, here you go. And the knight defends f8. And if you take with the rook, the queen takes. So yeah, this knight defends f8, this knight defends g6. And if you take with the rook, queen recaptures. Or, ooh, wait, if you take with the rook, queen recaptures, you can take on g6. Knight recaptures, you can take on f8. Fair enough. But knight takes, and this is equality. Queen and bishop against queen and knight. One, two, three, 3, 5. Black's 2 pawns up. I didn't see that line though. If I had seen that line, I might have played it. All right, if I take this, queen takes check, bishop c2. Queen a1 check, king e1. Or, I'm sorry, king d2. Queen d4 check, king e1. Queen d3 check. Fucking A. Or I could just take and be a piece up. But 3 pawns for the piece. I can take, king takes, and then play bishop e4 check. Or yeah, bishop e4. So queen takes queen, king takes, bishop e4 check, stopping these pawns. Queen takes e7, queen takes check. King b1, queen check. I'd be forced back to c1, and that's a perpetual. So my only chance would be queen check, queen takes, queen check, queen, bishop c2. If king b1, perpetual, or bishop c2 anyways, so bishop c2, only move. I am threatening checkmate here on c5, so he has to make checks, no quiet moves. So queen takes, check, bishop c2, queen a1. If bishop b1, perpetual, so no. Check, or rather if bishop b1, it's a repetition, so you know it's not the correct move. So takes, back, check, king here, check, bishop here, check, king here. And now he's out of checks. So instead he should check from f8. So wait, so takes, check, bishop, check, king here, check, bishop. And if check, then bishop, or rather king e1, and he has no more checks. Wait, yes he does. Queen c2. Queen c2, king here, and now he's out of checks. Or queen c3. King f1, no more checks. And he has to deal with the mate threat. So that's one possible line where I'm getting away with my king. Queen, check, king here, check, king d, check, only move. That's his only check. Bishop. So if check here, I can get away. King e, again, the only check here, and then king f. That's the only. So now I need to determine if this check will get me away as well. Takes, check, bishop, check, king d, king d, check, bishop, queen f2 now. If queen f2, there's king c1. King c1, bishop e3 check will be the only move, and then king b1. And again, he's run out of checks. Okay. Bishop, only move, king d, bishop, king e, check, and then finally king f, and he's out of checks. And the other way, from the other way, check, bishop, check, king c, check, king b, and it's the same thing, he's out of checks. And I'm threatening I'm threatening queen c5 mate, as well as queen c5, getting the queens off of the board. So if he tries to stop the queens from coming off the board, I give checkmate, and if he stops checkmate, I trade queens. Mistakes made, queen takes c6 check. Yeah, so queen takes c6 was a move that after I saw this and I saw this, I decided to look at queen c6, and if that was going to be winnable for white. But it looks like a very difficult endgame with 3 pawns for the bishop. And so I decided not to go for that. I can play queen g5 here, threatening mate. Let's say f3. Then I can play knight h3 check, winning the queen. So queen g5, f3, knight h3 check, king h1, queen takes. He should play king f1. That way he has time to take back on h3. If king h1, then after queen takes d2, he needs to save the rook on e1. If knight f3, checkmate. If g3, knight h3, picking up the queen. If knight g4, queen takes g4. Ooh. Yeah. Oh. That seems a little bit of a bumper in my plan. Wait, no, knight g4. If knight g4, queen h, or knight h3 anyways. Knight g4, not queen takes g4, but knight h3 check, picking up the queen. And this is a tricky defense here, because I was sort of tempted to take the knight, but then I remembered just to win the queen anyways. Grishuk game. Grishuk. I'm not certain how to pronounce that. Is it? So I think Americans pronounce it Grishuk. A French person would pronounce it Grishuk, but I'm not certain how an actual Russian would pronounce it. Queen takes e5, most common mistake. Equality is the problem with that. Let's call this the last one. My rook would really like to get out. So rook takes b5. Rook takes b5, threatening rook b4 check. Rook takes b5, queen e8, king h7. No follow-ups. Or king a7. Rook takes b5, queen e8 check, king a7. And the queen has no follow-up checks. There's also, well, if b7, then there's c7 check, c6 check. Then king a7. But why not just go to king a7? Why not just play king a7 directly? So rook check, king a7. And now he needs to deal with b4 check, winning the knight and winning the queen. He can't protect the knights. He can't. The queen has no square to cover the knights, and There's no way to cover the b4 square. So that will win a piece. And I think it's mate shortly after. Okay, so now check. Let me just make certain there's no follow-up. Check, king here. And now if queen takes queen e8 check would pick up the rook. No, it wouldn't. The rook is no longer there. So just the simple rook b4 check. Queen takes e3. And now if queen takes h5, queen g3. And in every line, after every check, the king can hide away on a7. Cool. I think if queen takes h5, I won't mess with picking up the g-pawn. I could also do this. King here, queen takes, king here, rook takes, and then just go queen. F, A, F, A, F, and now rook f2. Oh, wait, that was my last problem. So I'm going to call it there. I'm going to call it a session there. I'm a little bit tired, and I'm going to go ahead and get on with my day. So thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for sharing my studies with me. That was a good session, and I definitely enjoyed doing those tactics. It's time for me to move up to a new series. I'm going to change the series that I'm doing. I'll start doing 1700 to 1800 next session, I believe. And then from there, we'll just continue going up all the way up to 2000. I think I need a little bit more practice in before I'm able to do 2000 problems really consistently. Right now, I'm sort of hit or miss, or it really just takes me a long time of brute forcing all of the variations to get it done. But that's sort of the whole point here. I started this chess series and this chess channel not so much to help other people, but just to sort of publicize my own studies and make myself sort of communally responsible for doing tactics every day. So we say in Arabic, shwiya b'shwiya, little by little. And I think that's how it's going to go. So next session, I'll move up to another 100, and then we'll see how far up the mountain we can climb. For now, though, goodbye and good luck with your chess journey. Take care of yourselves.